It's been quite some time since I've done a video for the pond, and unfortunately I haven't been carrying my camera, and I've been having some really good times fishing here in the last month or so. We have been getting quite a few bass, larger bass, on swim baits. And the panfish, obviously, I'm still fishing my Bobby Garland 80-bit swimmers on 64-ounce jig heads. That was still pulling the panfish, bluegills and crappie. But the last week, the bite seems to have changed a little bit. The swim baits weren't getting as much attention, so I'm going to come down here tonight, and I'm going to do everything backwards from what I usually do. I usually end over here. I'm going to start over here tonight, and I'm going to start fishing some jerk baits. Try to slow down that mid-depth presentation a little bit, see if that won't trigger them again, if they're not chasing baits the way they were. And we're going to go with a hair jig and a smaller 64th-ounce jig with a Berkley leech under a float to substitute for the 80-bit swimmers, and we'll see what happens. So as soon as I turn the camera off, of course I want to grab it. This feels like a crappie, but it's not. It's a bluegill. On the leech. Fairly decent bluegill. On the leech. Again he goes. That fish was caught pretty close to shore, so I don't know if that is a sign or not. Time will tell. And this is obviously going to be a pattern, so I may wait until we get something a little different. Because right now everything's coming on the leech. I don't know if you can see across the way there. Zach looks like he's pulling in crappies. That looks like a pretty nice one he's got on there. See if he gets his measuring board out. I see that. How big is it? Now I changed from the leeches to a 1-inch GULP minnow, and that seems to be catching them too. I'm not real sure right now if there's a bad bait in the joint. Just a 1-inch GULP minnow up from a hair jig with a crappie nibble on it, and there does not seem to be a bad spot. I've been just randomly casting everywhere out here, not one particular spot, and we're pretty consistently catching them. I'll leave the camera roll here. See how long over here it takes. May not get anything. There he goes. Oh, I missed him. We had a take there. Pretty sure you guys can't see the float. But I have it with those two jigs. I have the float weighted that just the stem is above the water line. So it's almost a neutrally buoyant float. This one may go unanswered. I had that one bait. I missed him. They have hit pretty close in here to shore too in the past, so we'll let it sit right there to nothing. Just a little note of interest. I'm over here by the picnic table catching bluegills, and Zach is pretty consistently catching crappie right across the pond from me, and I haven't seen too many bluegill come up from him. So it's interesting. But they are definitely, there is some action on the float. Nothing, just a little one. Whoop. Something may have grabbed it there, but seems like the smaller fish aren't quite interested in committing to the bite, but the bigger fish are. Well, I haven't gotten anything real nice yet. Oh, we might tonight. Night's still young. I don't know if you can see the activity over here. There's fish pretty regularly coming up right along shoreline here. I'm going to give this one or two more casts and then I'm going to move around that. They look like crappie feeding. Oh, there goes something. And I missed it. I don't know if you guys can hear Mike singing on that lawnmower, but that is horrible. Somebody needs to buy him singing lessons or something. I'm not sure if he's listening to music or he just has noises going through his brain. There's another miss. Man, I just can't connect with him now. Yes, might be a little better bluegill. Or not. Still a nice fish, but it's not exactly what the pond has to offer. Thick fish. It is a nice thick fish. Female. That one was on the Berkley GULP again. GULP Mini. Now I fished through here with the jerk bait. I'm actually using a flicker shad, and I have not gotten a hit so far this evening with it. I work through the areas I'm fishing with that first, and then I'll come back through and just work this float. You know, presenting these baits within the water column. And I did adjust a little bit deeper to see if I could get away from some of the smaller fish we were getting. And that's under the understanding that I probably won't catch as many, but hopefully it'll be a little bit nicer. Zach's been over there constantly pulling fish. He's having a pretty good evening. Like I said, I think he's still using those little itty-bit swimmers. He's going after his ruler again, so he must be getting some nice crappie too. This presentation is a little slow right now. It hasn't mattered. I mean, I've gotten an equal amount. I stopped using the, there's a fish there, grabbed a hold of it. I missed him. I stopped using the leech because that does seem to attract a smaller fish on a pretty regular basis. I mean, it's a pretty consistent catcher, but it does seem to attract a smaller fish. These 1-inch mini baits and the hair jigs that I use, for some reason, weeds out those smaller fish. I don't know why. I don't know if it just appears to be a bigger bait or what it is, because the weights haven't changed. But I missed another one right there. Just not quite committing. But we have caught, you know, pretty equal amounts on the hair jig, on the mini, and on the leech. And if you can see that, something just pulling on the tail of that, and they stripped the crappie nibble off of that. And then all I do is I take these hair jigs and I'll just slide a crappie nibble on there. And Mike's still singing. Maybe that's why I'm not catching any fish. They can hear Mike. That poor man needs help. He just, whoops. There's something I need to point out. So this bait, you see how this is hanging right there? It's hanging vertically. That is not natural in a fish's world. So I just take my knot, I bring my knot back to the back of that eyelet, and then it'll hang horizontal in the water, a little more natural. Now it does hang down here in the air, but when that gets in the water, it'll buoyant itself out. And we'll see what we can do here. We may have gotten our first crappie tonight. And we did. He took the hair jig. Probably 9-inch class. 9-inch class fish on the hair jig. And I do believe in 2024 we're going to put a bounty on them. We're going to start taking them out, because they have reached a point where they're starting to overpopulate, I believe. We're catching them more and more regular every time we go out. We'll see how it goes. This has the weight of a bluegill. Yep. And now they're all taking the hair jig. That's interesting. Someday I'll figure that phenomenon out. They're pretty fish. Pretty fish. Nicely colored. No marks. That came right up to the surface. Now you know that's a crappie. It's kind of one way to determine what you have. A slow head shake, and if they come right up to the top, it's typically a crappie that you got. This one, boy, I'm pushing the limits here on this rod. This one's not too shabby. That might be a 10-inch class fish. Just for the sake of knowing here. And this is an 11-inch class fish. Oh, not too bad. So Zach, you seem to be pulling some fish over here. Huh? All crappie or?
Bluegill and crappie. I had a bass on, but I lost it.
What size were the crappie on average?
Well, I only got 2 of them.
Oh, it looked like you were catching a lot more of them.
That was all bluegill.
Oh, well then I was incorrect in my presumption. You got to watch that rod there when you cast. And now when you walk, watch the tip of that.
I got more bluegill than I got fish.
All right. Oh.
Did you hear
Mike's singing? God, that's awful.
He probably can't hear himself past that nose. That was fun. I was standing over here laughing. Mike's enjoyed himself on the nose. Is that all that matters? Huh?
Oh, no.
Oh my.
Oh my, says. And Zach tied in. Oh, that came up. That looks like a pretty nice crappie there, Zach. Where's the net?
We don't have it.
Oh, you didn't bring it?
It's in the truck.
Oh. Now, hold on. That is a really nice crappie. I'm going down here. Oh! Just that's a nice one there, buddy. Oh, wait. I'm in the mud. Let's see that baby. Heck yeah.
He ate it too.
He ate it.
There you go.
So that crappie that Zach got, that one's coming in at 12.5 inches. Got your scale? Get a weight on that quick. Hopefully that goes over a pound.
15 ounces.
15 ounces, not quite a pound. That fish should have went over a pound. I moved over here to a different area of the pond, and my float is not setting the whole way through a cast, so I'm going to take my bobber stop. I'm going to move it down about 8 inches down the line to try to pick that bait up a little farther off the bottom. I think that bottom jig's dragging on the bottom. It's not letting that float set. Contrary to popular belief, the pond is not shaped like a bowl. It's not deeper the farther out to the center you get. This area up here, up by the pine tree and over by the picnic table, pretty much the whole way out past the trees that are down on the other side of the shoreline is it's a flat, and it's got, you know, valleys and stuff in where the springs are coming out. There's a fish hanging on. I didn't even take the float under. And what happens is typically, a lot of the time, I think these fish, while you do catch them out in the middle of the pond, it's not because it's deeper water. I think it has more to do with water temperature. I think the fish get into a comfort zone and they just perk themselves. Just a little baby crappie. This is the size of the stuff we're going to take out. That's only about an 8-inch fish. I'm getting too many of them. So look forward to that. You want a good fish fry. I'm going to try to figure out how I want to do it. If I'm going to put unlimited amounts on them and put a slot size on them like we did the bass, because that seemed to have worked. But we got to play that year to year. Oh, there goes one. We got to play that year to year because the different spawn classes that we have. I think I was talking to another member. I think what happened between the bass being taken out of certain sizes and the fact that they had a bad spawn, I think 2023 spawn was a little light. And the crappie, unfortunately, it appears has a good spawn this year. You know, so we'll keep adapting. We'll keep adapting the pond to what it needs to maintain healthy, good quality fish. This fish never took the float under, he just started dragging it across the surface. Well, we have to watch for those bites too. A float doesn't always go under to indicate a fish. Boy, he's got that right at the right place. I just can't get my fingers in there to get it out. So we're at dusk. My ultralight's out of commission. I had a tangle that I don't want to take the time to try to work through because I'm going to lose too much fishing time. So I'm down to fishing this jerk bait. Zach is continuing to fish those little micro swim baits, and he's getting nicer fish as it gets darker, which was typical. But things have slowed down for me. But, you know, it's all right. We're learning. But I'm not done casting yet, so maybe I'll sign back in here in a little bit.